Do you know the story behind your zodiac sign? Today we're going to talk about the story behind Sagittarius, which actually begins when Hercules accidentally killed his friend. So Hercules had a friend centaur named Chiron. In case you didn't know, centaurs are half human, half horse creatures. And one day when Hercules and Chiron were out hunting, Hercules accidentally hit Chiron with a poisonous arrow. But Chiron was the son of the Titan god Cronus, which meant he was an immortal being and couldn't die, even though the arrow was putting him in a lot of pain. Hercules felt really guilty for his mistake and tried to help Chiron by making a deal with Zeus. Chiron would give up his immortality to free Prometheus, the god of fire who Zeus punished for stealing fire from the gods. Prometheus's punishment was that he would be tied to a rock and an eagle would eat his liver over and over again. This way, Chiron would be allowed to die and Prometheus was set free. Afterwards, Chiron's soul was placed among the stars as the constellation of Sagittarius. But which zodiac sign should I talk about next? Follow to see the rest of the series. Do you know the story behind your zodiac sign? Here's one of the weirdest zodiac sign stories out there. This is the origin story of Capricorn. The story begins when Mother Earth had some serious beef with the gods, enough that she sent a fire-breathing monster named Typhon to fight them. And this is where the forest god Pan comes in. He had legs and horns of a goat. He told Zeus and the other gods to disguise themselves as animals in order to avoid Typhon. And while the other gods were disguised, Typhon approached Pan and was about to attack. So Pan panicked and jumped into the river Nile. Because of this, the lower half of his body, which was underwater, transformed into a fish, while the upper half stayed a goat. So that's why we have this sea goat creature to represent Capricorn, but that's not all. Zeus ended up battling Typhon and had the muscles in his hands pulled out. Pan healed him, which allowed Zeus to defeat Typhon in the end. Because of this, Zeus immortalized the image of Pan in the sky as the constellation of Capricorn. But which zodiac sign should I talk about next? Follow to see the rest of the series. Do you know the story behind your zodiac sign? This story is pretty wild. This is the origin story of Aquarius. The story begins when Zeus became interested in a young man named Ganymede. So he turned into an eagle, took Ganymede to Mount Olympus and made him his new cupbearer. This meant his job was to basically pour the gods' divine drinks. And here's where the drama begins. When Ganymede became the cupbearer to the gods, he replaced Zeus's daughter Hebe. Hera, who was Zeus's wife and Hebe's mother, was not happy about this. She wanted her daughter to have the job, and she was jealous of how much attention Zeus was giving a mere human. Now it's uncertain whether Zeus was actually in love with Ganymede, but some variations of the myth include that as well, and say that that's the real reason why Hera was jealous. But pretty soon Ganymede realized that he didn't like his job. He noticed that people on Earth really needed water but wasn't getting any. In an attempt to help humanity, he poured the gods' drinks onto Earth, causing rain for days and flooded the world. When Zeus found out, he was angry, but then realized Ganymede just really wanted to help people, so he placed him in the stars as the constellation of Aquarius. But which zodiac sign should I talk about next? Follow to see the rest of the series. Do you know the story behind your zodiac sign? This story is probably one of the most interesting zodiac sign stories. This is the origin story of Cancer. So we all know Poseidon is the god of the sea, but he was actually forced into hiding after he was attacked by the vicious monster Typhon. So he left a giant crab named Krios in charge of protecting the sea nymphs that lived in his underwater kingdom. But after a while, the sea nymphs grew impatient and they wandered off into the open sea. So Krios asked a giant squid Vamari for help. However, things didn't go as planned. Krios didn't know that Vamari was a vampire squid who swam out, found the sea nymphs that wandered off and ate them. After Krios did find out, there was a huge battle between him and Vamari. And even though Krios won, he sustained severe injuries. Krios wanted to be laid to rest, but he couldn't because he was an immortal crab. So when Poseidon returned, he honored Krios' bravery and relieved his pain by placing him in the sky as the constellation of Cancer. But which zodiac sign should I talk about next? Follow to see the rest of the series. Do you know the story behind your zodiac sign? You might not have known that the story behind Virgo actually relates to a goddess. Her name was Astraea, the goddess of purity and innocence, and her story begins when Prometheus stole fire from the gods. Afterwards, Zeus decided to punish mankind by sending Pandora's box. But the story of Pandora's box actually leads to how Virgo came to be. Pandora was unable to resist her own curiosity and opened Pandora's box, which contained evilness, crime, hatred, and other abominations. At the bottom of the box was hope, which didn't escape. But that's not all. Opening Pandora's box also caused a mass exit of immortals and gods. Here's where Virgo comes in. So the goddess Astraea was the last to leave, and as she left Earth, she watched the sky every night in hopes of one day returning. She had faith that mankind would be able to defeat all the evils of Pandora's box. The myth says that Astraea fled the wickedness unleashed onto Earth, and she ascended into heaven to become the constellation of Virgo, constantly wishing and waiting for the day that she would be able to return to Earth. But which zodiac sign should I talk about next? Follow to see the rest of the series.